As the horns rise up, we begin a new day. One full of passion and positivity. It's in our choices of how we paint life. And as for me, I need color.
Welcome to the I Need Color podcast. I am Aaron Gall, and I hope that everybody listening had an amazing and productive week. With that, let's go ahead and get into some positive world news. So I read this article last night that really kind of touched my heart a little bit because of two reasons. One, night photography and doing kind of those nightscapes, and then also it's a wonderful thing that's a tribute to our farmers. So, and I'm going to try to say the name of this artist correctly, so bear with me. Daan Roosgaard. He's a Dutch designer and artist that he created a dazzling light show out of an ordinary leek field. He did it as a celebration of crops that we use every day. And with that, he's got a lot of different things going on in his studio where he does these dreamscapes. But he really wanted to make the farmers the hero so that it's really a celebration of what are life-sustaining food and combinations of the arts and science to go along with it. And I really touched me because I'm a night photographer. So the fact that he's creating these dreamscapes with light and fields and stuff like that, it's really beautiful to me. And if you go to Good News Network, you can see the article there, and it's wonderful pictures to go along with it. It's gorgeous. The whole leek field is lit up in purples and blues and pinks, and but then on top of that, the farmer side of it, our farmers have really got hit hard over the last 5 to 10 years because of the big boom of big corporations and stuff, and our local farmers are having to change up the game and figure out how they're going to change things up to get their product out and be able to make ends meet at home. And so with that, like the last year and a half, I've really done a change in my life, and like my fiance really started me on that path with eating locally and changing up how we look at our nutrition. So I've added a lot more whole food, plant-based ideas into my own nutrition, and do a lot with recycling and going to farmers markets. And it's really changed how I look at the way I eat things. I tend to not go and buy a lot of fast food for the last couple months because of changing the way that I'm looking at things. And I did that for a variety of reasons, but that's a topic for another episode. But it was definitely one of the reasons was keeping the farmers in mind and eating local and just sustaining and leaving a better footprint for the earth. So I'm really excited for that. And I was really excited to read this article. And it's not too long. It's really a couple paragraphs, but it was enough to capture me and realize that I wanted to put it on for one of the positivity points at the beginning of the episode. But with that, let's go ahead and get into the bigger chunk of our episode. So you guys already kind of know a little bit of what I'm about, but I want to give you more background on me and how I got to this point where I'm talking about finding your purpose, feeling passion, and spreading positivity, and really trying to change people's lives. And I wanted to do that because I think it's important. I think it's important that you know who I am. I think it's important that you know the strength of my character and how I got to be the character that I am and the colorful person that I am. It's just like if I have any of you on my episodes, and I want people to reach out to me if they want to be on the episodes. I'm not looking for celebrities. I'm looking for people. One of the things that really influences me in the way that I network with people now is watching my fiance at work. And I don't do this to, get brownie points or be like, oh my God, she's going to love me so much more if I do this. No, I do this because it's extremely phenomenal to watch my fiance network in a room because she's very grassroots. She's very personable with everyone she meets, and she treats them like they're close friends and family. And most of them are, because she's done such a good job with keeping in touch with people in her network that she's became a powerhouse just because of her character alone and how she talks with people, creates connections. And that's exactly what I want to do with this podcast. Is I want to talk with everybody and become that grassroots movement moving forward so that I can not only grow my network base of people I consider friends and family, but I really want to do it to help people change the world through positive action. So with that, let's go ahead and I want to get into what makes me me. And I'm not doing this for any kind of fame or so that you look at me and be like, oh my gosh, he's a superhero. I might have the chin for it, like I said in the last episode, but I'm just human. I mean, sometimes I'm a little bit of an alien, but, Nino. Anyway, growing up. So I came from North Lewisburg, Ohio, small town in, what is that, a little bit northwest, in between Marysville and Springfield, or Marysville and Urbana, however you want to look at it. And I had a very simple life growing up. My mom, when I was first being raised, worked at Honda, and then my dad was a roofer. And then when my dad ended up leaving roofing and going to work at Select Sires, taking care of bulls, and then my mom went into the nursing care field and worked at nursing homes. And while they were doing that, I was trying my best at school to get around it. I had trouble in school. I did, and it wasn't that the teachers were failing me, because I had amazing teachers throughout all of my schooling at Triad. And any of the teachers that might be listening to this podcast, thank you, because there's some teachers out there, Mr. Sheritz and Mr. Graham, to name just two, that changed my life so much, and I can't thank them enough. So if you haven't thanked a teacher, go thank a teacher. But I dealt with a lot of different things besides different things at school. I was bullied a lot because I was real small until I got to about, I think it was 7th or 8th grade. I got bullied a lot because I looked like a kindergartner while everybody else was like towering over me. And that's because I was premature. I was 2 months premature, so I was small until 7th grade, and then I shot up like a freaking tree. But through that process, I ended up joining martial arts and gaining a little bit more confidence in myself and getting anger issues under control, which was great. Because I was a very angry kid because of different things that was going on. I mean, my dad was sick on and off, which led to, while I was getting into martial arts for the first time, which was Kung Fu, for anybody that's wondering, it was a wonderful experience, but I was also going through a lot of hardships at home because my dad was going through kidney failure. So he was on dialysis. I mean, we were having to change the bags at home for him a couple times a day. It was insane, to say the least. I had to grow up in a very fast way. Instead of having the time to go out and be with friends and everything else, I had a lot of chores to do and a lot of things to do at home that were important, but that didn't allow me to go and do the things that other kids were doing. But I was proud to do it. I was able to help my family in a time where we were struggling. And I plan to have my mom on the podcast on a future episode and talk more about some of those struggles. But from it, I ended up getting a job. My mom was working at a nursing home in Woodstock that everybody listening already knows where that's at. And mom was always amazing with people. She knows how to walk into a room and just exude positive energy. And it was always such an inspiring thing. So when I got this job with my mom, I wanted to do something like that as well. So I ended up working with the arts and crafts department at this nursing home in Woodstock. And I was playing like Connect Four and chess and doing arts and crafts with the different people that were in this nursing home. And it was extremely rewarding for me. But it also let me take some money home to help my mom and dad get groceries. Because we couldn't afford much. I mean, we were paying for a lot of like things with dad's meds and hospital bills, and we had a lot of struggling times. There was one Christmas that we ended up losing power, and I remember. Excuse me if I'm getting a little emotional. I get emotional every time I tell this story. I remember sitting around a kerosene heater inside of our house playing cards and remembering how beautiful and peaceful that was. And I mean, it wasn't that the power was out for too long, because a local church stepped in and really helped us out in our time of need. But it was a moment that it really changed my life early on, to really appreciate life for what it is and to see how I can change other people that I come across, like people that are homeless on the street. I stop as many times as I possibly can, and I usually give $1 or a couple dollars to somebody, or I'll go and buy food for somebody. And I never document it because that's not what it's about. I do it because I want to help people. And I thank my parents for that. They instilled that in me, and it drives who I am to this day. But as I was doing that job and I got into high school, my mom and dad wanted me to focus more on my schoolwork and my music, because I was trying to be a musician, and then I was also doing kickboxing tournaments and stuff on the side for like the last 2 years of high school. And I remember feeling like the black sheep. I really felt like an outcast when I was in school. And it wasn't that I didn't have friends in school. It wasn't me. And so when I got ready to graduate high school and I had found out that I was accepted at Ohio State for their music program and all that, I was so excited because I had not seen anything else besides what was inside my small town of North Lewisburg. And because I had not experienced that yet, I was going through inner struggles of like who I was as a person or who I wanted to be as a person. And I mean, and everybody goes through. Every kid going through high school is like, shit, I'm about to graduate. What the hell am I going to do with my life? So I went through that struggle, and it caused some anxiety, and I had a little bit of like depression episodes toward graduating, because you get that senioritis when you're graduating. We're like, what's after this? So I got accepted into a Ambassadors of Music program and got to travel overseas with Bowling Green. And we traveled to 7 different countries over the span of a couple months. And I got to really experience things outside of my small world that I had been brought into and raised. And to tell you that it was a mind-blowing experience is a devastatingly understatement. It is. I had so much fun in the places that we went to. I got to play music in and talk with people of different cultures and different backgrounds. And I remember And it's funny because I came from a small town, but I never felt bigger in my life than when I was in Switzerland in a small little town with no stoplights or anything, but it had the most wonderful view of the Alps. Every morning I got to wake up with local, fresh strawberries and cream, and I got to wake up and walk the streets with all these wonderful vendors with homemade cheeses and chocolates and talk with the locals and natural springs going into the fountains that you could dunk your head in, and it's the most delicious water you ever tasted in your life. And I remember sitting one night with an older couple that I had no idea who they were. I sat with them in silence and stared at the stars. And afterwards, I walked with them back toward their house and toward where we were staying at. And I remember thinking to myself, this is amazing. The fact that I came from a small town in Ohio, and then I ended up in a small town in Switzerland, and that I felt more at home than I ever did. It was crazy. And so that was my first episode of peace that I had truly felt. Peace in knowing that I was on the start of a journey that I had no idea what twists and turns I would go down, but that it was going to be phenomenal. So when I got back and I started at college and doing everything at OSU, my mom and dad had a few more struggles that was going on at home, and so I decided to get a full-time job and leave college after about a year and a half in at OSU. And it was a hard decision to make, but it was the right thing to do. When your family needs you, or the family you choose needs you, you're there. You have to be. And so I got a job as a carpenter with a ex-girlfriend's father, which was awkward as hell at first. But it was completely liberating to me because I got to learn a trade that I still use to this day. And trades don't get enough respect. And anybody doing a trade, hats off and claps. Because holy shit, like, we have to deal with a lot. One of the things that I had to learn was the ability to really work hard. Like, I had worked hard before, but never as hard as I had to work at being a carpenter. And the boss that I had is phenomenal. And I can never thank him enough for everything that he taught me. And when he was there for a lot of different things that I was going through in my life, when he didn't have to be. He didn't, but he stepped up, and he was a true friend. So if for some reason, Charlie, if you have the ability to listen to this, thank you. You really helped me through a lot in my life, and I appreciate you. So while working the 9 to 5, I was really struggling with my personal life. I mean, I had a relationship I was in and friend groups that I had, but I had some toxic friends, and I didn't realize it at first. And then on top of that, my personal relationship was very toxic, and I didn't realize it. So, and part of it was me at times. I'm not going to say that I'm without fault, but I knew that I wanted more. I was wanting to strive for more. So I wanted to get back into martial arts again. And so I started to train. And as I was doing the training for, a couple years, I was doing it mainly on my own. And then I started back at my old Kung Fu dojo that I was at, and was realizing that it really wasn't for me. At least not that place. I knew I wanted to do martial arts, but I wanted to do what I knew was going to help me in my struggle to be at peace with myself and to find out who I wanted to be for the future. So I started out another gym and was going 5 days a week. just drilling. I mean, I was going 2 days a week to, no, 3 days a week to private sessions at a guy's house. And then 2 days a week I was inside the gym. And for 5 months, I trained and trained and trained hard. I mean, harder than I've ever trained in my entire life. And I went from 250 pounds down to 191 and fought at the Arnold Classic in Columbus for the first time in stick fighting. And I went through all that, and I still didn't completely find peace. I knew that I was at the right place for where I was at in my life, but I still wasn't at peace. So I kept striving for it, and then the ability came up for me to test to be an instructor. And I did this in front of Sigam Richard Bustillo, who I miss every single day. And that was such a rewarding part of my life that brought me so much peace that I knew that that was on the path that I was needing to go. So it inspired me to really fuel myself even further, and I started my own studio in my hometown that I was living in back then. And it went really well for a while, and then I started to have setbacks with my health and realizing that I needed to change things up. And then my relationship was getting even worse, and and I had gotten married, and that's a story for another time. But I ended up shutting down the studio and having some issues with the guy that I was training with, and decided that I needed to leave that place that I was at, because I needed something different at that time. So what I started to do after I left that academy, I started taking pictures of the stars. And I spent the whole year doing that. I didn't train whatsoever. All I did was spend nights underneath the stars, because I felt connected. And I needed that connection. And it, again, takes me back to Switzerland, where I was looking at the stars, feeling peace. And I was trying to figure out how I needed to restructure my life. So after doing that for a little while and going through different jobs, I got back into martial arts again and started going back to that academy. And then, boom, life hit me again. Got a divorce and was going through all that and trying to train at the same time, and then just trying to figure out what my life was going to be. I started a job at CVS as a pharmacy tech, which, was an okay job. It wasn't what I wanted to be doing, but I knew that the reward is in the struggle. I needed to grind a little bit harder, and that eventually I would get to that place I needed to be. And I knew that I wanted to teach. That was top priority. That I was like, Sigam believed in me. I believe in me. I know that I'm at peace when I'm teaching. So I got a call from my now coworker that told me there was an opportunity coming up to have this job at the university we worked at. And my first thought in my head was like, you're out of your fucking mind if you think that I deserve this. And it wasn't so much that I didn't deserve it, because I did, and I do, and I'm proud to work there now. But at the time, I was lacking some confidence. I'd just gotten hit by multiple things at once that would bring down any person. And so I got my resume ready, and thankfully my resume got more polished. Thanks, honey. She does resumes better than I do. And when I got to the job and sat down for the interview, I was sweating so hard because I was so freaking nervous. But my boss that I've got now and her assistant were so nice and so positive. And I just went in with like, you know what? I'm just going to be me, and we're going to see what the hell happens. And by the time the interview was done, my boss shook my hand and she said that that I had the job. And I remember being in complete awe for about 2 months, like leading up to my first day, of just like, is this really happening? Why is this happening to me? Why are these good things happening to me? And I realized it's because I'm a good person. I haven't always made the right decisions. I haven't always walked the right path. But I'll be damned if it wasn't my path that I walked. And that's one of the things that, and I wrote this on Facebook the other day, I tried walking in other people's shoes. I tried doing the 9-to-5 job. I tried doing the family life. I tried everything. The American dream. And while it works for other people, it didn't work for me. I wanted more. Not out of greed or selfishness, but because I knew that it would lead me to the person I'm meant to be. And it would lead me down the path of being around the people that I was meant to be around. So after dealing with all that and starting my first day at the university, I was nervous my first semester, but I got in the swing of things and really started coming into my own and being like who I was meant to be. But I still felt like there was a few things that were missing. And so, I mean, I had the amazing job that is absolutely what I want to be doing the rest of my life as my job, is teaching. I absolutely love it. It is without a doubt one of the more shining examples in my life that I get to help people. And I knew that was what my purpose was. That's what my purpose is to help as many people as I possibly can while I'm in this life. And then, I met an amazing partner that allows me to be me and supports me for everything that I want to do. And it's such an amazing feeling when you got that support. And I hadn't had it to the extent that I have it now. I've got an amazing mother who backs me 120%. I know that's what she's supposed to do, but she doesn't have to. She chooses to, because I've done the necessary things to make her proud. And then I've got this close knit of friends that have my back. And it's because of all that support and my close knit group of friends, and a couple of my best friends, to name a few: Jared Wise, Damien Anaya, Josh Core, Hannah and Pedro, Jen Andrade. I've got so many amazing people in my small circle. My coworker from earlier, Julie, love you. It's that small circle really makes for big change in your life. Now, it's not to say that I don't have a lot more friends and family. I do. But my close family is who I choose. Period. And those are some of the people that I choose. And I have no regrets about that. Actually, I don't have any regrets at all. Just because I've went down, and just because you've went down some kind of path in life that maybe is not the path that you wanted to walk or thought you should walk, own it. Own that life and use that shit as fucking armor. Because guess what? You walked your path. No one else did it for you. No one pushed you to. You walked your own path. Own it. And get better from it. Use it as a lesson and then leave it in the past. It's not something to hold on your back to let weigh you down. It's something to learn from and progress forward with positive change. And so when I came to the process of creating for this podcast, I was already in the process of knowing who I was, knowing what I wanted out of life, knowing what I wanted to strive for. But it took a grind. I mean, I'm going to be 35 next year, and it's taken me 33 years to get my shit figured out. That's okay. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Because I'm still me. I'm happy. It's the happiest I've ever been in my entire life. And I have a lot of people to thank for that. But mainly I have myself to thank, just like you have yourself to thank for your happy moments. We choose to be happy. Everything's a choice, and it all comes down to your choice and how you react off of life's obstacles. So with this podcast, it was another way to express my voice, to teach. Again, teaching is one of my purposes. I love it. I love being able to have somebody get inspired from something that I'm talking about or presenting that helps them change in a positive way. I wasn't always as positive. I used to have depression, angst, and experience that, and like talk about things that were very depressing. But I had to find my positivity. I had to find my confidence again. I had to find my point in life that I was going to be okay with exactly who I am. And that's this moment. Only took me 35 years. But when I started to think about the idea of doing another podcast, because I had one before, like Jared said in the last episode, I knew that I wanted it to be positive. But that's how it started, was just being positive. And when I sat down after I got engaged this past summer, I sat down and I was like, what am I going to call this? What am I going to create with this that's going to be different? That's going to be outside the box of not only what my first podcast was, but what other podcasts are. And so I thought to myself, positivity. And then I thought purpose. And I thought passion. And I was like, man, this sounds like really good pillars to start with. So that was how that came to be. And then I said, well, what's the name going to be? And I started to really think about things like when I was creating this wolf back here. This wolf took me 7 years to complete. Holy shit, right? Normally it would have taken me about 3 months. But I was going through so many different things in my life that I could not sit down and have the motivation to do it and get it done. But you know what? I changed throughout those entire 7 years that I was creating this piece. And so in that same sense, this piece changed over 7 years. The eyes got more bolder. The colors got more grander. Added more blues and purples. And it really made everything pop. So when I was finishing this piece up, I thought to myself, man, this is so much more colorful than what it used to be. And then it clicked and my head screamed, I need color. And I said, shit, that's it. I need color. That's what I'm going to name it. Because just like it says in the opening to the podcast music, as the horns rise up, we begin a new day, one full of passion and positivity. It's in our choices of how we paint life. And as for me, I need color. That's what I want to express to people. That's what I want to talk with people about, is how they bring color into their world and into the world of others. So if you want to be on the podcast, I don't care where you're from, what you do for work. I don't care if you're an artist or not. I want you on the podcast because I want to talk with all walks of life about how they go about each and every day, making it a little bit more colorful. That's important. Spreading positivity to the world? Hell yeah. It needs to happen more. Especially, we've been dealing with a pandemic over the last year. It's been making a lot of gray points in this world, and we need to brighten that shit up. Color, color, color. Bring it on. I want all kinds of color. It's important. It's important to me. I know it's important to you, or else you wouldn't be listening. You wouldn't have made it this far into the episode if it didn't touch your heart in some fashion. We have to be the sculptors of our own destiny. And if something doesn't work in your life, you have to be willing to rewrite the page as many times as possible to write the chapter that you're after. I did. I've rewrote myself and completely changed up who I am a lot. I was a musician. I was a martial artist, and then I was a musician again. And then I was a teacher of art, and then I was a musician again, and then I was a martial artist, and then I was a martial arts teacher, and then I was a pharmacy tech. I was a carpenter. I used to wax floors at a nursing home. I've done a lot of different things in my life as far as jobs, creative process, everything. And every single one of them helped create who the man I am today. And the people with that. Some of them I probably shouldn't have had in my life, like people-wise, like toxic people. But a lot were positive. And I'm very thankful because now I get to be here talking with all of you. And now I get to be a lot more colorful in my life and hopefully inspire you to be more colorful in yours. And with that, I'm going to end this episode. I hope that you find color in the everyday. I hope you take time to help out people that are struggling, whether it's friends, family, someone that's homeless. I can't tell you how many times that I've stopped and jumped out of my car and gave $1 or gone and bought food for somebody that is homeless on the street. And I don't record it because it's not the point. You have to embrace the struggle. Creating positive change and creating the life that you always dreamed of and that you've always wanted is a simple choice. It's the work behind it that's hard. But I promise you that if you grind, you will get out into the light. Peace is discovered inside of yourself when things outside of yourself no longer can grasp your soul. See you next week.